This is the Unapologetic Entrepreneur Podcast, a podcast for passionate entrepreneurs just like yourself who are looking to create a profitable and productive business that you are proud of. On this show, we explore entrepreneurship success stories, but not just the highlights. We get into the nitty-gritty details so that you know more about the path traveled to achieve that success. See, I'm on a mission to help you never feel like a failure again when it comes to achieving your goals. And so much of that is setting realistic expectations of the effort needed, goals that align with the season of your life, and ensuring that you have the accountability in place that you need. So on this podcast, you can expect real conversations, practical tips, and lots of encouragement along the way so that you have everything you need to follow through and actually achieve your definition of success. So if you're ready to go from unsure to unapologetic, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Hello there, and welcome to the Unapologetic Entrepreneur Podcast. I am so glad that you are here, and I'm just honored that you're here and spending some time with us today. So I say us because I have a wonderful guest on the show today. Can't wait to introduce her, but really quickly, just thank you for spending time with us. We know that you have tons of options when it comes to podcasting, so thank you for going on a walk with us or washing your dishes or whatever you're doing today. So I have a fantastic guest today. The story of how she is on the podcast is such a fun one. So I'm going to hold on to that and tell you after she introduces herself. But Jenny and I were connected through a mutual coach that we both know and have worked with. And her name is Holly. So I want to give Holly a shout out for sure. But Jenny, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you for having me. I just cannot wait to talk to you today.
It's such a great story. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So I have worked with you kind of, right? Never one-on-one, which, just going to put that out there. I hopefully will be doing so soon. But I've used so many of your resources because I've worked with Holly and she has used you as the copywriter inside her mastermind and club and all of these things. And so through not even knowing it, you have helped me write emails, put stuff on my website. You've done all of this because you've created templates and all of these things. So I've gotten to know you through Holly. And so I've been using your emails and inspiration. And of course, I got on your email list. So rewind the tapes a week or so ago, and we're recording this in August. I'm not sure when this is going to go live, but a few weeks ago, you sent an email that I read, and it was like so powerful, so incredibly powerful that I immediately hit, reply and said, "Will you be on my podcast? Here's the link to book." Like bypass all protocol for the podcast and just get you on here. So I'm so excited to dig into that. But before I talk a little bit more about that email, can you introduce yourself and tell everyone listening that might not know your name, what you do and how you help your clients?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I feel like Amanda too. I want to say it just kind of speaks to the kind of person you are too, who would read an email somebody sends into the abyss and even reply to it and then invite them to be on your show. So thank you so much for, just building community that way and recognizing people and taking the time to reply and cheer people on. It's so cool. So hi, everybody. My name is Jenny Roth. I'm a copywriter. So I write a lot of sales pages and a lot of emails. I'm also a mom to 3 daughters who are all middle school and teenagers. I'm married. I live in the Midwest. I'm married to a farmer. And I really started my business. I've been doing it 4 years full time, but I started when my kids were babies and toddlers because I was really a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. And I kind of was trying to figure out, okay, I want to earn some of my own money for a lot of different reasons. That's always been really important to me. And I also wanted to be really hands-on and present with my girls. Where I live, we don't have a lot of childcare options and things like that. So I was trying to really put together, how can I be with my family a lot? And how can I also make some extra money? At the time I wanted to, I was thinking $200 a month would be awesome because I could put my daughter in these dance classes and pay for that. And I would just feel like I would just love that, So how can I make some extra money? How can I do it from home while being with my daughters? And how can I do it using something that I'm really good enough at to help other people? I really wanted to help other women, other business owners, other people with whatever I was doing. And so I kind of landed on writing, and I'm sure we'll get into the story more, but landed on writing. First, it was magazine editing and writing, and it really has evolved into a full-time copywriting business that, earns more income than I could ever make at a job where in the area where I live or anything like that. And so it's really evolved beautifully over the years. And yeah, that's kind of, where we started and where we are today.
I love it. I love your story so much, and everyone listening just resonated so much with it, with that idea of wanting to have a career that fits into a life that you love. And I've heard a lot of people talking lately about, maybe it's not a lot of people, maybe I'm just recognizing a handful of people that have mentioned something about like not living for the weekend. And I think how wonderful it is that we, the crazy entrepreneurs we are, everyone listening to this podcast, of like, we are like, we can figure that out. We can do that in a way. And everyone's looks a little different. But what you wanted to do is you wanted to be present. You wanted to send your daughters to dance class and not have to worry about stretching the budget too much or anything like that. And I think that it plays so well into what this email was about, of course, but it's also like what everyone on the other end of the speakers here is thinking is like, I just want, like, it starts as that just $200 a month, and it can grow into something else. But we have to know what we want. And that's what I really want everyone to really pick up on that you just said, is like, you are very specific. Anyone who I work with, I'm like, why do you want to make that amount of money? And when they say like a round number, I know you said 200, but someone very recently on a call said, like, I want to make $50,000 a year. I said, that's a round number. I'm going to need you to get real specific. Like, why do you want to do that? Is there a reason that it's that number? Or can we drill down and like make sure we're paying your bills? Because the more concrete we can have it, the better I think that we can get. And so yours being like $200 so that I can send my girls to dance class. Like, it was very specific for you. Do you think that helped you just kickstart everything, being that specific?
Yeah, that's such good advice that you give your clients. And I think that helped me, having this goal of like, yes, I want to make $200 for this dance class. Okay, cool. I did that. Could I make, I think I found then our grocery budget or something, and it was like around 400 or whatever. I was like, could I make 400 a week? Could I make 800 a week? And it has just slowly like grown. Oh my gosh, could I make, at the time it was like 5K months. That was like all the talk online, I guess.
Right.
And even kind of where I live, in the Midwest, I thought if I could make $5,000 a month, like, that would mean so much for my family. Right. And so, yeah, I didn't really start with this expectation of like, I'm going to grow my dream business and, retire my partner and like do all these things, like these really massive things. For me, it started small, like, okay, can I pay for dance class? Cool. Can I pay for groceries? Yeah. Okay. Can I also can I pay the house bill, the mortgage? Okay.
Right.
Wow. And then can I be the one that puts money in savings? Can I do this? Can I do that? And just growing it step by step. So it is definitely about the money in that way, but you're absolutely right. It's like all the things that having that financial, making your own money, whether it's $200 a month or $20,000 a month as a woman, kind of what that gives you, So it is definitely about more than that.
I love that you brought up, there's a very specific part of how you introduced yourself and like how you started your business that really resonated with me. Because as you know, as an entrepreneur, the more you know about your clients, the better you can serve them. And so I'm constantly looking back at coaching notes or, podcast interviews, anything I can to really think about like, what is the underlying thing? How am I helping people? What is going on? And one thing that I've really found, and it's not that everyone says this phrase, but eventually they say something similar, and it's, I wanted to make my own money. And you actually said those words, which is so cool and so powerful. And I think that's why this email hit me so hard, because I was like, my audience has to hear from you, has to hear this story, because I've heard so many people, and usually it's like several coaching calls in or something, like it takes a little bit to get there, but it's like, I want to make my own money. And then people often feel some like shame or guilt or whatever the case is for like, but I don't want to be selfish. I'm in a fortunate position that I don't have to make this money right now. I really should. Like it gets so complicated so quickly. But if we can just remember, it's okay to make money, that I think we would be in a better spot.
For sure. I can't tell you how many times as a woman or just as a woman business owner, I felt like I couldn't talk about wanting to make my own money or why that matters to me. I feel like, and I think I'm intrinsically driven to want to help people. Like the work I do, whatever, it has to matter. It has to like have this bigger thing. I think that's just, whatever, some kind of personality trait or whatever. But when I peel back those layers and when I look at other women business owners who work so hard, or just women in general, like we already help people so much. I don't know a woman in my life who is not doing things for everybody all the time, and every minute of the day. It's like, we already do so much. So I think instead of coming at it all the time with like, how can I help? What more can I do? Like, it's okay to also be like, and also I'm doing this to build wealth for my family, to build security for myself, to know that I can support myself financially if I have to or want to. So all those things. So I think it's absolutely okay. And even if you're like, quote, just a mom or whatever that, those like stories we pile on or get piled on us, like it's okay to want to do it also for those reasons too, beyond helping. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's okay to want to make money. I try and remind myself and everyone that I have, in my bubble of the world, that money isn't bad. Money is neutral. We can do awesome things with money. We can do terrible things with money. And anyone who's worried about doing terrible things with money, or the stories we tell ourselves about money, is going to do great things with the money. So I want you to have all of it. So if someone needed that reminder, for sure, like I just feel like it's almost like a funny thing. Like we both just laughed because if someone is worried about it, it's like the last thing you're going to do is like do weird things with your money. You're going to probably spend it on other people, and you'll have to be reminded to take the time to spend some money on yourself.
Honestly, think about the things whoever's listening, the things you already do with the money you're making in your business, right? Like you're paying bills, you're buying stuff for your family that they need, you're buying food for your house, like clothes, you're probably giving to causes that matter to you, investing back in your business so you can help more people. Like it's just, if you really like look at the things you spend your money on, it's kind of crazy to think that you shouldn't do that or want to make that for yourself.
I love that exercise. I'm going to hold on to that. I feel like that could be the next step after this podcast interview is like, look at what you're actually doing with your money and how you could do more things with something. Like I had the idea the other day, I was applying for a grant, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, right? It just depends on my bandwidth. But there was this grant and I thought, how cool. I've always wanted to be able to give a grant to a female business owner. I've never said that on a podcast before, but here we are. I'm going to put it out. And I remember thinking, I want to be able to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but I would love to be able to do that. And the only way I can do that is if all of my needs are met financially in the business and hitting my personal goals. And then I can invest in other people even more. And so it really opened my eyes to a big goal, but it gives me that reason, kind of like the dance class, right? To keep striving to hit those goals.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a beautiful goal. I love it. Well, let me know if whoever you give the grant to needs like a website written. I'll donate.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun. Yeah. So you know what? This is the first time I've actually said this to someone. So this is really fun. And maybe that is it. Like you just gave me the idea of like, maybe there's a way for me to partner with other people and we can really figure this sucker out. Yeah. Because that would be really fun.
Yeah, we could just like donate our services and put them together. That's so cool. I love that.
Right. Okay, you're on the list. We're going to figure that out. Hi there. I promised to get you back into the episode really soon, but I wanted to make sure you knew where to find support from me if you'd like it. So many times we listen to a podcast episode and we know that it's a great idea, but ideas aren't what make big change happen in our life or in our business. Action does. So if you've been talking about a specific project, dream, or goal for a while and haven't quite finished it yet, it's time to either intentionally let that go or get the support you need to finally finish it. And if I feel like a good fit for you, I'd love to take it across the finish line with you. Go to my website to see the current coaching options at amandamckinney.com or email me at amanda@amandamckinney.com. I cannot wait to talk to you, but for now, let's get back into the episode. Okay, so I feel like I've talked about this email enough that people are like, are you going to tell us about this email? So the email that came through, we're going to put it in the show notes because it's long and I am terrible at reading things when I'm on a podcast. So I do want to read the first little bit of this because I think that whoever your professor was that said this, bless her. I want to tell her thank you, and everyone needs to hear it. She was a wonderful, wonderful professor for telling you this. Do you want to set this up in any other way before I read what she said?
No, just that she was a wonderful professor. And I don't think at the time, being like a 19, 20-year-old woman, girl, that I even recognized the advice that she was giving me. So just to have it, pinned back into my mind, being almost 40, and that it stuck with me that long, and I shared what she said, and I got so many replies, and it resonated with so many people, just goes kind of to show like the things that matter to you when you say them out loud, like you don't know the ripple effects that can possibly have. So I just think she's incredible. And it's just a testament to everything you pour into others, how that gives forward in ways like you don't probably even get to see,
That's a great point. Mm-hmm. You're right. That professor doesn't know who I am. And yet it impacted me, right? Like how wonderful that really is. So I'll read what the professor said, and then we can talk a little bit more about that. So the email, I feel like the subject line is female rage, the email, which I was like, immediately I have to read this. So great subject line, which we can get into that in a minute. But it opens with a quote from the professor that says, when you go for your first job interview and they ask you about your salary, you look them in the eye and you tell them, when deciding on my salary, think of me like a man. My income does not supplement my partner's income. I am the breadwinner of my home. I pay my bills. Don't pay me like you would pay a woman applying for this position. Pay me like you'd pay a man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's powerful.
Wild. I know. Yeah. I know. And this professor, so I studied Spanish and anthropology in school, and her name is Cecilia Mafla Bustamante, and she grew up in like Ecuador and was working here in the United States. And like she had gone through divorce and was supporting herself. She had a daughter, and so has a daughter. And so, to her to pour those words into us and tell us like when she applies for jobs, that's what she said too, right? Like when she would go in and apply for positions, she'd be like, listen, you need to pay me like a man for this job. Like I'm, quote, like the man of my house. So like pay me that way, And at the time, and I think I said this in that email too, at the time, she kind of said that to me and I was kind of like, okay. Like I almost thought it was a little bit over the top because I hadn't really experienced enough life yet to realize like that was a thing that maybe I could go into a job and be offered a salary that wasn't adequate or that was lower than maybe they would give a man. So I kind of, was like, okay, and it really hit me, her words kind of came back to me very recently, like right before I wrote that email, thinking about other experiences in my life where and I shared some of these in the email too, where I had worked for positions and that did not pay well, where you go in and you ask for a raise and you get told like this is why and all these things. And so, and also like my own mindset stuff of building a business and thinking about, what I charge and can I charge this much and can I really make this amount of money? Like dealing with this in my working life, her words really, I don't know, just lately are really coming back to me and sticking with me and reminding me like, no, wait, like you need to get paid for this and you need to be paid well,
Right. It's so powerful. I agree. Sometimes we remember things at the time where we need to remember them. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just one of those times. And the other examples that you gave in the email about other times that you ran into this, I shouldn't say other times, like that was one experience that she told you. And the times that you ran into this, it was someone telling you that it was like $15 an hour and that it was what did it say? Just a homeschool mom earning extra cash, posting jobs for $15 an hour.
Yeah.
And immediately I'm like, who is that? I want to go talk to him. But at the same time, if I was sitting across from that person, I can't say that I would have felt the permission, the confidence to fight back right in that moment. Because it's, number one, shocking. And number two, if it was the first time you heard it, you were probably like, okay. And maybe that story really resonated with you at that moment of, I am just a homeschool mom. Maybe I shouldn't charge. Do you remember that experience?
Oh, 1,000%. I think about it all the time. That's where my female rage comes from. So when I decided I wanted to be a writer and work from home, my first step was, okay, I'm going to look. I didn't really know what copywriting was. So my first step was, I'm going to look at magazines local to me. And I'm going to see if they would hire any writers. So I just started like pitching these local magazines, and one
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's hard in and of itself. Good for you.
Yeah, it is. And writing's like always a thing I felt like I was kind of good at school, and that was one of my goals. What am I kind of good at? Always been kind of good at writing. Okay, let's go here. So I started pitching local magazines to see if they were looking for writers and all of this. And one of them took me up on it, and I started writing, articles for them every other month. And I really quickly moved my way up to being the editor of that magazine.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I had it negotiated so I could do it from home. I would drive to interviews when I would interview people. And I would, go in sometimes to work with our designer to put it all together and things like that. But I became the editor of that magazine, and I worked so hard, and I had 3 little kids, and I was homeschooling, and I poured everything into that magazine, and I helped grow it, and I helped, we got so many compliments. We got so many, we were growing our readership, we were growing our ads, we were doing so much, and I was definitely like a part of that. Is like hard as that is to say out loud, like, I was doing a good job. I was. And so I'm working at this magazine, and it's about $15 an hour. And at the time, that felt like just so much for me to be able to do that and make that while working at home. And I am just a homeschool mom, I am just a mom, all these things, right? And so, just stories from working there, sometimes would be said, like the boss would say stuff like, oh, I showed up my magazine to this group of colleagues and they thought it was so well done. And when I told them what I pay you to do it, they just couldn't believe I get away with that. Or like when I would go in to ask for I would ask for a raise. I'm like, I think I want to ask for a raise. And I would kind of be met with a little bit of pushback. Like, we don't do raises. This is why I can't do raises, all these things. Right. And so, me sitting here, and I hate, like, saying this story out loud is really hard for me, because also working at these jobs gave me a lot of experience to where I am today. And I don't want to, like, anyone to feel that, I'm sitting here complaining. However, I did have this feeling like I'm working hard and I'm doing a good job. And I just wonder if I could work that hard for me, and we would tell a lot of stories in our magazine about local businesses, right? So we go into the business and we do interviews and we publish their story. And then those business owners would come back and be like, thank you so much for publishing this story. We're getting such an uptick in clients and traffic. And they have the story framed on their wall when you walk in. And I was like, this is like, I can use my words to help business owners. I was raised by entrepreneurs. Like, my dad's had his own business my whole life. Still does. And so I just kind of started putting the pieces together, which is copywriting, helping business owners grow with words. But I just thought, like, how can I do this for myself? And when I saw, when I started applying for copywriting jobs and got myself out of that job and took the leap into entrepreneurship, I still see this particular place posting jobs like $15 an hour, wonderful opportunity. And when I wrote that email that Amanda's talking about, I really did feel like, on those hard days of when you run your business and you feel like it's not enough and you're not doing enough, I'm like, I'm doing this though, so that I never have to go work for somebody who tells me $15 an hour is a wonderful opportunity. And I'm doing this so that I never have to ask a boss for a raise when I know that I'm doing a good job, right? Like, I can give myself a raise, and I want to balance it with being grateful for the experience and the opportunity. And however your wonderful opportunity is, maybe like you can make your own wonderful opportunity, I guess, is what I'm trying to tell listeners.
That's great. Thank you for sharing you said it, and I can tell it's uncomfortable to talk through it. And I totally understand. While I don't have your lived experience, I have my own, and I have things that I look back on in the, my corporate. I always talk about my corporate world job and like all of that life before me, because it feels so different. It just feels like a world of a difference. But I'm so grateful for it, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I did not have that experience. And I know not everyone's corporate experience was mine. Mine just wasn't awesome. I mean, there were awesome parts. I met people. I got great experience. But I hear you when you say, it's like, I'm grateful, but I learned a lot. And we won't be going down that road again. And I just really appreciate you sharing, because I know so many people are not far enough down the road to where you are, but they want to get there. And they're in the place of taking those $15 an hour wonderful opportunities. And they needed to hear that it might take longer. It's probably going to take longer than they hope, but they can give themselves that wonderful opportunity. But in my opinion, after coaching so many people and experiencing it myself and hearing so many people on this podcast and others, you have to believe it. You have to believe in yourself before it's even possible. How did you go from the wonderful, I'm using quotes, wonderful opportunity where someone is telling you that $15 an hour is a wonderful opportunity, to where you are now with pricing things and the confidence that you have, like in helping people? I loved what you said, by the way. I'm sure it's on your website everywhere, and I have not caught it until you said it, but the growing their business through words.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for bringing up that part about being grateful, because I think that feeling as women too is like, be grateful. And it can of course we're grateful, but it can kind of keep you stuck, especially when someone's kind of telling you like, hey, this is a wonderful opportunity, be grateful. And all these stories like, be grateful. It's like, you can be grateful and you can also like make more money. Like, it is okay,
Right.
And so that's stuff I tell myself on repeat all the time. And so basically I was working at the magazine, and I thought, maybe there's this thing called, I learned there's this thing called copywriting, because I was doing it by writing articles for business owners that were getting them more clients and traffic. And as I was writing, other people were reaching out to me and being like, hey, I heard you write. I have this blog. I have this website. And I was like, whoa, this is a thing. So I just like dove in all the classes, how we do, all the courses, all the information.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, learning copywriting. I started to apply for copywriting jobs, like freelance, to take on freelance roles. And I thought, maybe if I can grow my copywriting clients to match my other salary, then I would go. And I did. I grew it to match my other salary. And that's what I did. I just figured like, I'm going to put in my notice, and I just had enough clients built up that it matched what I was already doing. And I thought I could take it and grow from there. So that's kind of how I did it. It was basically just asking like, but could I maybe do this thing too, right? Like, I'm here making this much over here. Can I match it? Done. That's all I need. Can I grow it? Let's try that now, So it was really just a matter of one step at a time and going from there. Yeah.
I love it. It's what you have to do. People ask me all the time about my, how did you get started? And I'm like, I just assume, the answer is no if you don't ask. So I just ask a lot and pitch myself a lot to things. And that's how like things have gotten. And I know that in and of itself is difficult. So I'm about to ask you what everyone asks me when I tell people that. They're like, but how did you do that? How did you like find the people and have the confidence in yourself to say, hey, I could write that sales page for you. And so I'll ask you like, how did you do that in terms of like maybe your first few clients when you were still working? How did you find those people? And getting that confidence in yourself, and also not give it away for free. Because at the beginning, a lot of people want to give things away for free, which I'm not saying is bad. So maybe you did do it, but how did you transition out of that?
Yeah, I'll absolutely share that. So I put together a website on like Wix. I wish I could share it with you. I'm sure it looked like so crazy.
Hey, ugly websites sell things every day.
Yeah, I just threw up a website. Okay, I have a website. Cool. And I just was really keeping my eyes open, and I bought a course on copywriting, right? So I would feel confident. And it was I think I spent like $500, which at the time for me was like, ooh, it was a lot.
Right.
I spent $500 to learn copywriting, and it was super comprehensive, and we had a coach in there. And if you wanted to learn sales pages, you'd go to the module, sales page writing. And if you wanted to learn websites, I had all of that there for me. So, and again, I loved writing. I felt like I kind of had enough information on being a good writer to start. And I didn't overthink that part because I think my expectations were kind of low for myself. And so I bought that course. I threw up a website, and I just started keeping my eyes peeled. Back then it was places like Upwork and Fiverr. And I started applying for, people would post on there. They were hiring copywriters. I started applying. One person kind of local to me who was a business coach, and she also owned a boutique, hired for a podcast writer. And so to write her podcasting scripts. So I applied, and I went through like this pretty like thorough hiring process where I had to do like test manuscript or test scripts and like all this stuff. And I just poured everything into getting just that first job. I poured so much into getting it. And I got it. And from there, like opportunities just opened for me because I got that first one and I grew in my confidence. And, that first client knows people. So, hey, I'm looking for somebody to write my thing. And she's like, I have somebody who's doing a great job for me, right? Or I would notice people in her world, her following, who I was like, oh, I'd love to write for them. And so I would like literally pitch myself, be like, hi, my name is Jenny. I love what you do. If you are ever looking for a copywriter to help you with this thing, I just wanted to let you know that I just think what you do is so cool. I love your brand, and I just wanted to introduce myself. So I was like applying for jobs everywhere, pitching myself, starting to build a little bit of a referral base, and then learned how to build a referral program, in there. And that's like honestly what I still do today, mostly with my clients. So it's like pretty much the same. And you just have to be audacious enough to just go for it. Like believe that what you know now is enough. It is. Like you can always learn more, and you'll always learn more, and you'll always get more knowledge. It's fine. But like what you know now is enough to help somebody. Like put yourself out there, go for it. Get that first one, get that first client. And you will just continue growing. Do a really good job for them. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do like portfolio building stuff if you have to, or beta coaching, or whatever you're doing, and treat it like paid, and do a really good job and get referrals and testimonials from it. You just got to start somewhere. And I don't really know what it is that made me think I could do that. I think I just was like, shit, let's find out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I know what it is. It was you wanted out of the $15 wonderful opportunity that was given to you. Yeah. And you wanted to send your kids to dance class.
Yeah.
This, like, in my opinion, is like when I am working with someone, I like get to the bottom of why it's important to them. Because on the hard day, because I guarantee, I'm going to speak for you, but you can absolutely correct me if I'm wrong. I guarantee you heard no or didn't hear back more than you heard yes.
Oh, absolutely. Today I just heard no on a project I applied for. And I cried and called my husband because I really wanted it. So, oh my gosh, I hear no all the time. I think you hear no more than you hear yes. And that can be very hard. But the times you do hear yes, and the times you do a good job for your clients, and like Amanda's saying, like that why, right? For me, it's like I will never write for $15 an hour for someone who doesn't appreciate it, right? Like I want to work from home, so I'm hearing my kids get sick or come home from school and like all these things. Like I want that so bad. And, my partner's even said to me, he's like, man, when you wanted that, you just set up an office in the spare room and you just did that. And I'm like, I guess I did, but you don't even know how bad you want it until like somebody like Amanda reflects that back on you, like that's why you're doing it, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess it is.
And that's the thing. It's like every single one of us, there's not one person, I'm convinced of this, that cannot reflect on their life and think back to a time when they really, 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 really wanted something. You want that soccer ball so bad as a kid. I never wanted a soccer ball. I don't know why I just picked that as an example. But the idea of like you want that thing so bad that you are like, Mom, Dad, Grandma, neighbor, what can I do to earn some money? One quarter at a time, right? And you will just save and save and save. It can be an example from then or an example as an adult where you really want something. Maybe it's finishing a degree. Maybe it's learning how to do something that takes time, a long time, like a second language or whatever the case is. Learning how to make sourdough bread. How many people did that during COVID, right? You figured it out. You bought the stuff. When you really want something, you somehow figure it out. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's on your timeline, because there's a lot of things I want in life. I always use the example, and I will until I go. I want to go and spend a month in Italy. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. I want to do it, but I'm convinced that I've wanted things before and figured it out, so I know I'll figure that out when it's time.
Oh my gosh, 1,000%. Yes, you just trust yourself to know, like, next right step, just keep going. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I also think it's important to remember, and this is where I come in for my clients a lot too, because I just do a lot of reflecting. I think all coaches do, but it's okay to not want something and to let it go. So maybe someday that Italy trip is no longer on my heart and I can let that go. I don't have to do it just because I said it on a podcast one day.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do that in their business of like, they'll say, well, Amanda, I know I should probably want to double my revenue. I'm like, no, I don't know what you want. I want to know what you actually want. And if you don't want it, please let it go, because it's not going to be fun for you to get it there. And because everything, in my opinion, that's worth it is going to be difficult. And on the hard days, if you don't really want it, you will procrastinate and make excuses. And so that's just what happens. There's reasons we can't do things, but they become excuses.
Yeah, I agree. Do you find with your clients and yourself, something that comes up for me a lot is I sometimes tell myself a lot, like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do that. But when you come back to it, and just by talking to you right now, and maybe people listening can identify this too, sometimes it's like, maybe I want to live over here. Maybe we want to be nomads. Maybe we want to, travel here. Maybe I want to go back to school and get my teaching degree. Maybe, like all these things come up. But at the core, like when I'm listening to you talk, like I know that I deeply, like I want to make my own money and be able to do that. That's always been important to me. I want to be a great writer. I want that so deeply. I want to be close with my kids and my husband, and I want to be able to have a career that is flexible around my family right now, whether we live in the Arctic or Hawaii, whatever. Like, I deeply want those things. And so I think maybe people listening can come back to that too. It's like, but really though, like, what are the things that you want, and I think that those can be your drivers too.
I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
It's so true. Because what I'm hearing in that is the how can be figured out.
Yeah.
But what do you want? What do you want it to look like? What do you want in your life? I feel like it's so cliche to say, but it's so true. We all have lost people in our lives that we are not guaranteed next year. We are not guaranteed tomorrow. So what do you want in your life? And I know we can't just throw caution to the wind and just be like, well, I want to go to Italy for a month. Yeah. I'm just going to abandon all responsibility. I recognize we can't do that. Yeah. But what do we truly want? And for anyone listening to this podcast, time and financial freedom bubble to the top pretty quickly for people. So if anyone is like really struggling, I would say you probably want time and financial freedom, and you need to define what that means for you.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that's helped me too is knowing what you want and then going for it, like messy action. And I know there's a time and a place for like careful, detailed thought and planning too. But, when I was pitching for my first clients, and when I built a membership, like things that I've done in my business, sometimes I will like go for the opportunity and be like, well, here we go. And like, you know what? You got to trust yourself to get that opportunity and then figure it out. And you are going to figure it out. So I think sometimes people can get stuck like thinking like, but can I do that? How will this work? Am I really, qualified or whatever? It's like, man, if the opportunity lands with you, you are going to make it right, so get that opportunity. And then I've never gotten a project or a client where I haven't gotten the opportunity and then like all in getting it right, so I think you kind of have to have that mindset of like, I don't know, getting a little bit scrappy and a little bit audacious with like, no, I'm going for it. I'm going to figure it out along the way, but like, I'm going for it,
Right.
Yeah.
I wish that we could bottle up our feelings of like, just be audacious and go for it. I love that word audacious that you've said. And I know that we can't, but we can have this podcast episode in people's back pocket. So they can have this on repeat. But for the person who's like, because I have so many clients and I'm digging into like different personality tests and all of that. You and I seem similar in that if a fire is lit under our butt, we're going. Like you just set up an office in your house somewhere, right? And did it. I did the same thing. And people often say the same thing that your husband said. My husband said the same thing. Like when you want something, like you can just run and go get it. And you're not necessarily super scared to fall down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are super scared to hear no, to be embarrassed, to fall down, to fail, whether it's sending that pitch email or sending that proposal with a price on it. That one seems to get people so much. In those moments that they're like, can't hit the send button or can't walk in that networking door because they're so nervous, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say that it might sound like when I'm throwing around the word audacious that I'm not afraid, but I'm like completely terrified all the time. Like all the time, every proposal I send, everything I try to do, everything new to me, getting on this podcast episode, talking to people, pretty introverted, so I don't think the goal is to make that fear go away. I think the goal is to feel it. And I'm almost kind of like, I'm like, oh, hello, fear. I knew you would show up today, and just know that it's going to be there. And like people that are doing these things, they're not doing stuff because they're not scared. Like they are scared and they're doing it anyway. And like you are totally going to fail and mess up and get things wrong. We could probably have a whole other interview.
Yes, we could.
Things that we've done wrong and times we've messed up and times, we've been like, I cannot do this. This is so hard. Like, it's so normal, man. Like, so don't let it stop you. I think just knowing that fear is just so normal. And the only way through it is through it. I don't know any other way other than through it. Yeah, so you've got to hit send. You've got to try, and like you're gonna start accumulating some wins too. Then, you know what I mean?
It's like just getting that first one, like just getting that, and then I encourage everyone to create a smile file on their computer, note on your phone, email, whatever it is, and it's like every time someone says anything nice about you, you screenshot that, you put it in a note, you do something, and because you need that, you need those words on a hard day.
You do.
And just a recent example, because I want everyone to know I get terrified too. Because everyone seems to think I don't, because I'll say something and I'll do things. I am terrified of getting the no or looking stupid, doing something. Like I'm scared all the time. And I had a call yesterday with a new person that I've never met before. And it was like 2.5 weeks ago. I sent an email to her. And it was a cold pitch. I have no connection to this woman whatsoever, which I usually try and find my connection to people. And I had nothing, but I really want to speak for her organization, like at her organization, because she works with female entrepreneurs. And I really want to be a speaker for them. And so I just cold pitched this woman. And I basically said in this email, I know you're really busy. I'm going to get to the point here. And I pitched myself and I did not hear back. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to follow up, but I feel like we could probably call that one a day. Come to find out, like fast forward, she booked a set, like a connection call with me. It was like 15 minutes or whatever. And we talked yesterday And she gets on the call, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going to have to pitch myself on this call, usually. And she was like, Amanda, thank you so much for reaching out. Your timing is absolutely perfect. I happen to be traveling for the last few weeks, so I apologize it took me a long time to get back to you. But our budget season is coming up, and we would love for you to be a speaker several times next year.
That's so awesome.
And I was like, what? And she just said, what's your hourly rate? I'd love to budget you in next year. And the rest of the call, I was a little bit like, that went really interesting, because I was in my head about, she doesn't want me to speak. They don't like me. Like, I told myself a lot of stories that were not true.
Yeah. I love that story.
Anyways,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's like, but you never know, like, until you send that email. And that was one of the scarier emails I've sent recently, because I was like, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any connection to this whatsoever.
It's so real. Yeah. And I just want to, I have to add one thing to that.
Yeah, go.
So that is so good and important to know. And one thing too, that like when I was learning to pitch and put myself out there, that a coach told me, she gave this example, like when she was going to hire for like, I think it was a virtual assistant or something. And she was like, now I have to go out and find this person. Yeah. Imagine if a virtual assistant, she's like, if someone would have popped into my inbox with offering their help, I would have been like,
yes,
they're helping me. And so same with you, like you email this person and offer your speaking skills to them and talents, and you help them out. So when you kind of send out these opportunities, put that energy, or these pitches, like put that energy on it. Like, I'm helping somebody, right? Like I have a lot to offer. It's not like you're like asking for a handout. You're offering something to them that can really help them, so having that energy on it's so important. And I pitched somebody a year ago that I just heard from, who's like, hey, we got your pitch a year ago, weren't hiring at the time, but thought you were completely bold for doing that. Can we set up a call? So like, you just never know. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And
I know.
That's what I want people to hear for sure, is like, just put it out there, and you never know. A no is not always a no. It's usually a not right now.
Yes.
Sometimes it's always a no, but I mean, it's pretty rare. Usually it's a not right now. Thank you so much. I'm trying to think of any time that I've received a response that was just rude and awful. And I can't think of one. Most of the time you don't hear anything back at all, which is the worst, right? Like that's like the worst that I've had. But no one's like, I can't believe you'd send me a pitch to help to be on my podcast or something. Like, no one's ever said that to me.
No, me either. Most people are like, because they're doing it too. And if they run a business, they get it. And they say stuff like, oh, thanks so much for the pitch. I'm not looking for this right now, but keep going. Like, I mostly get encouragement from people.
That's awesome.
I know.
Note to myself, I'm going to start saying that for sure.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Well, Jenny, before we wrap this up, I would be remiss if I did not talk to you somewhat about copywriting, because number one, you're amazing at it. And two, people need to hire you for sure. Just go find Jenny. She's got free resources. Get on her email list. You'll love her emails. But I would love for you to share a little bit about how you infuse stories like you did in this email that make your copywriting so good. Like whether it's on your website, in the emails, I've seen you teach so many times. I've used your templates. It's not like the storytelling framework that I feel like a lot of copywriters share, but you share stories in a very authentic way.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm not sure. I wish I could answer this question more like eloquently. But I think good storytelling emails or content, wherever you post content, those ones that like really come through you and you're like, I have to share that. So when you get those, share them. And when you're going through things in your life that like your day-to-day, your business, your daily life, and you get little things like, oh, that would be a good story to share with my email list, or oh, I would love to tell my clients or my potential clients about that. Keep track of it in your notes app on your phone, in a Google Doc somewhere, and have that little story bank that you can come back to. And then when you go to sit down and write content, you're like, oh yeah, I wanted to share that story about that thing that happened to me, So that's some good advice on it. Another like really good piece of advice that I would give anybody who writes for their business is write first, edit later. So set a timer some people call it free writing. I don't know, set a timer if you need to, or just be like, this is my hour of writing copy for my business today, however much you have. And just write. And sometimes the first things you say are going to be like, I have no idea what I'm going to say today. This idea, there's going to be some jumble that comes out, but you can't edit a blank page. So allow yourself to write and then edit later. Yeah, I think people get really stuck because they're trying to write and edit at the same time. And when you don't really give yourself permission to be creative and let the ideas come, you've really got to just sit down, give yourself that time and space to write things and get those ideas on the page. And then you can come back the next day or whenever you want to, or maybe at the same time, and edit them up. So write first, edit later, keep a story bank. Pay attention to the stories that you get that are little nudges, like share that because you probably should share it.
I think that's a great tip. And one of the things that you said, but I just want to emphasize is when you have that thought, like, you can put it in the story bank if you want, but I like that you said, do it. Yeah. Do it. And the reason I say that is because most of the time when I get responses to an email that's like, I loved this email, Amanda, which by the way, I love when I hear that. So if you ever read an email of mine, you're like, this is great, please email me. I love getting those emails. I will take them every day of the week if I can get them. So please don't ever hesitate. It's been a few weeks now that I decided this is quite the story. Like at some point it'll be a podcast episode, but it became an email at least first. And I decided to tackle a plumbing project in our house. Why I thought that was a great idea, I don't know. It was terrible. It was terrible. End of the story is I went to Lowe's 6 times in 2 days, and it was terrible. On the 5th time back from Lowe's, I was writing the email in my head. Like I pulled up the voice memo on my phone and talked out the email because I was like, this is good content. Yes. And I sent it the next day, which was like a non-typical email day for me, whatever it was. And I got responses to that email.
I love it.
So anyway, send it even if it's not your normal email day. Go for it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think we think that we have to have a good idea and then we write it down. But sometimes those things that you really want to say to your audience and come in the writing. Like for me, they don't really come before. Sometimes like that they do, right? You get that good story. You're like, I got to share this. But sometimes I sit down and I have no idea if I have anything worth saying to anybody that day. And I just sit down and write and it comes through the work, So sometimes sitting down and doing it just, you'll be surprised what comes forward if you let yourself sit down and write and think about your reader, put her first. What do I want to tell her today, him or her? And those are all good tips, I think.
I love it. Great tips. And everyone can listen to your podcast and go to your website for even more tips. So on that note, where can people go to follow you and find you, all the good stuff?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Amanda. This has been wonderful. One of my favorite conversations ever. So thank you. People can find me at jennyrothcopywriting.com. And that's my Instagram handle too, Jenny Roth Copywriting. Podcast is the Email Marketing Podcast. And we can give a free resource if you put free resources in the show notes.
Yeah.
I have a free, it's called Relationship-Based Email Marketing Strategy and Template Bundles. So it gives you like a marketing calendar for your emails and like 6 templates that prompt you into just having this really incredible, relationship-centered like email marketing strategy that puts your readers first. And you can use those templates every single month and rotate through them. So
I love them. They're awesome. I have them. They're in my Google Drive, just like ready and waiting anytime I need them, which is really great. So thank you. I encourage everyone to go and get them. Jenny, thank you so much for being here today. And for everyone else, we like to give the next step. And I'm really I don't even know which one to give because you gave so many. And I think that's where people get hung up when they're listening to podcasts. But I really believe in, tell me if you think this is not the best one for everyone. I think it's to understand why they want to be running this business and what they really want out of it, because I think the rest of everything can be figured out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Knowing your why and knowing when you feel deeply afraid of that action that you want to take to get to that why, knowing that that's normal. Just keep going.
Yes.
It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or you shouldn't do it. It's like everyone feels that way. Yeah, just do it. Just keep going. Yeah.
Just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Jenny, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you everyone for listening. And until next time, give yourself permission to make more money and grace along the way. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you found it helpful or inspiring, be sure to share it with someone else who could use it too. Sharing is caring, but it's also a huge boost to your accountability. Sharing this message and then talking about it will ensure that you actually take the action that was mentioned in this episode. Hello, accountability. There's nothing better than the feeling of actually following through, and I want that for you. So screenshot it, share it, and if you share it on Instagram, be sure to tag me at @TheAmandaMcKinney too. Until next time.